Hi, this is Andrew Pankin with Free Media Live, and I'm going to answer a comment on YouTube. This comment is in reply to a video regarding Herman Cain flip-flops on auditing the Federal Reserve. And the comment states, I actually looked up the audits on the Federal Reserve that are public. By the way, they have third parties come in annually or semi-annually. Yes, they may have internal audits, as Herman Cain stated. Of course they have internal audits. But those internal audits aren't fully revealed to the public. Those are internal, that's why they're called internal. Which should be obvious, but apparently isn't. Okay, so they're public to do the audits as well as they have their own in-house audits. Herman Cain never said he was against a big audit of the Federal Reserve, but he knows they are audited all the time by third-party organizations, and we should have been able to find something within those if there was some huge conspiracy going on. It's just common sense. Okay, the problem is that you're not aware of what's really going on. That's the problem. I'm going to show you tonight what's really going on. It's nothing about a quote, some kind of quote, huge conspiracy. It's simply that the Federal Reserve does not reveal various information deliberately. It's nothing to do with a conspiracy. They just loan out billions and trillions of dollars to attempt to prop up the economy. And these trillions and billions of dollars are money, they're funds that have been created out of thin air. That's the problem. Here we go. This is all public information on the internet, but apparently you're not aware of it. It says here on Bloomberg.com, Fed refuses to disclose recipients of $2 trillion. The Federal Reserve refused a request by Bloomberg News to disclose the recipients of more than $2 trillion of emergency loans from U.S. taxpayers and the assets the central bank is accepting as collateral. Bloomberg filed suit November 7th under the U.S. Freedom of Information Act, requesting details about the terms of 4 Fed loan lending programs. The company later amended its claim, seeking also records of a loan the Fed made in connection with New York-based J.P. Morgan and Chase & Company's acquisition of Bear Stearns Company. The Fed responded in December 8th, saying it's allowed to withhold internal memos as well as information about trade secrets and commercial information. The institution confirmed that a record search found 231 pages of documents pertaining to some of the requests. If they told us what they held, we would know the potential losses that the government may take, and that's what they don't want us to know, said Carlos Mendez, Senior Managing Director at New York-based ICP Capital, which oversees $22 billion in assets. Total Fed lending exceeded $2 trillion for the first time since November 6th. It rose by 138% or $1.23 trillion in the 12 weeks since September 14th. This goes back to 2008. This was in the middle of the financial crisis. That's what it's all about. The Federal Reserve is going to print up trillions of dollars again if we go into another financial crisis, which very well may happen shortly. And the question is, what will Herman Cain do? Will he allow them to bail out all the banks all over again? The Tea Party is supposed to be all about against the bailouts, against printing money, but that's not what Herman Cain is about. Herman Cain is a former Fed chairman of the Kansas City Fed. He supports Alan Greenspan, and supposedly he wants to fire Ben Bernanke. But the truth is, these are all just rhetoric on his part. That's why He belittles people who question what the Fed is doing. We're not talking about some grand conspiracy theory. No, we're talking simply about what the Fed has done in the past and will continue to do. They are doing it right now, and when they will continue in the future, unless someone steps in and says, no, you can't do this, gets rid of Ben Bernanke, replaces him with someone who won't do these types of things, creating money out of thin air. That's what the Tea Party is supposed to be all about. But this is not what Herman Cain is about. Not at all. And this article goes on to say Congress is demanding more transparency from the Fed and Treasury on the bailouts. Most recently during the December 10th hearings, going back to 2008, 2009, that's not now. And that's what it's about. Okay, this is the Freedom of Information Act. Bloomberg filed this lawsuit. Bloomberg filed under the Freedom of Information Act requesting the details. Then the Fed refused to provide the information that you say you refer to these audits. Okay, these audits are not what it's about. If these audits provided the information, then there'd be no reason for Bloomberg to file under the Freedom of Information Act to get the information. These are all basic facts. You go to Google, you'd simply type in Freedom of Information Act, Federal Reserve, Bloomberg, and you'll pull all this stuff up. It's on the Bloomberg.com website and other newspapers' websites as well. It's common knowledge. Freedom of Information Act. Bloomberg filed the lawsuit. They filed under the Freedom of Information Act. Then, when Bloomberg refused to provide the information, then Bloomberg filed a lawsuit demanding that the Fed has to provide this information under the Freedom of Information Act. They have to provide the information. This is what it's about. Got to look it up, research before you make these conclusions. Internal audits have nothing to do with it, because internal audits are simply that, internal. And the information you find on the Fed website isn't pertinent, because the information on the Fed website is only the information that the Fed is willing to give up. There's much more information. That's why the Bloomberg has to file Freedom of Information Act under the Freedom of Information Act to get the information. Then when the Fed refuses to give in the information, then you have to file suit in federal court demanding the information under the Freedom of Information Act, forcing the government. The court has to force the Fed to provide the information, and the basis is the Freedom of Information Act. That's how it works. We're not talking about internal audits. That has nothing to do with it. Nothing at all.